is Natasha Belief from PenPadPurpose.com with the last installment in this month's SyncUP series, Christmas Unwrapped. Today's segment is titled The Santa Dilemma. For the next few minutes, we're going to be syncing up with God to unwrap the legend of Santa Claus. Our key text for today is 1 John chapter 5, verse 20. Now, if you've been to the mall lately, I'm sure you've seen it. Droves of little people in lines that stretch to the parking lot, jumping up and down with excitement to see the one, the only Santa Claus. And then there's that moment where they're like just reaching the promised land and they're about to step forward and be placed on the big guy's lap, and they just look up at his big bright red suit and his rosy cheeks and that signature long white beard, and they just look at him and totally freak out. Well, regardless of the reaction, Santa and Christmas are so intertwined that it seems sometimes impossible to separate them. But was it always this way? I mean, where did the legend even come from, and how did Santa become the iconic image of the holiday? And is Santa really bumping Jesus as the focus point of the holiday like so many people say he is? Does the Bible say anything on this topic? Well, let's start from the beginning. Santa Claus is real. Well, correction. The legend of Santa Claus is based on a real person. His name was Nicholas, and he was a monk born in Patara, which is near Myra in what we now call Turkey, in the late 3rd century. And he became known as Saint Nicholas because of all the amazing stories of his generosity that color his history. It's said that he gave away all the money he inherited so that he could travel like a nomad, serving the sick and the poor. There's even a really popular story about how he saves 3 young poor girls who were about to be sold into slavery and prostitution by their own father. The story goes that he funded their dowries so that they could be eligible to marry. A saintly act indeed. Now, he became so popular that there's even a feast day to honor the anniversary of his death, December 6th. By the time the Renaissance rolls around, he was the most popular saint in all of Europe. Even after the Protestant Reformation began discouraging the celebration or worship of saints, Nicholas still held his popularity, especially in places like Holland. Saint Nick's popularity first made landfall in America at the end of the 18th century when a New York paper covered the story of Dutch families gathering to honor his feast day. Now you may be wondering, okay, Saint Nicholas was a real person, got it, but how do we get from Saint Nicholas, the traveling nice monk, to Santa Claus, the jolly elf in the red suit? Great question. Well, the name transformation I can explain because see, the Dutch translation of Saint Nicholas is Sint Nicholas, and the Dutch short name for Saint Nicholas is Sinterklaas. And by the power of the American melting pot, Sinterklaas eventually evolved into Santa Claus. All right, now the transformation of Nicholas's persona from Saint Nicholas to Santa Claus is a much longer story. So here it is. As Santa Claus increased in popularity, so did variations of people's depictions of him. Some described him as a rascal with a blue 3-cornered hat, a red coat, and yellow stockings. Others saw him as a guy with a broad-brimmed hat and some big Flemish trunk hose. That's like those pants that they wore during Shakespeare's time. Anyway. But it's Clement Clarke Moore's Christmas poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," that introduced and popularized the persona of the Santa Claus we know today. See, Moore's poem introduced the idea of Santa being portly, jolly, and an elf with magical powers to ascend and descend chimneys. It also popularized the idea of Santa flying in a miniature sleigh from house to house every Christmas Eve with the help of a flying reindeer to deliver presents to deserving children. Now, even though Moore's plan as an Episcopal minister was just to write this poem as something fun for his 3 daughters. And he probably also gathered a lot of those details from various sources and legends that he kind of heard along the way. His poem is what perpetuates much of what we think and imagine when we hear the name Santa Claus. But it wasn't just Moore who's responsible for this legend of Santa Claus ingrained in our minds. In 1881, the very popular political cartoonist Thomas Nast leveraged Moore's poem to create our modern image of Santa, which appeared in Harper's Weekly. It was a large man with a white beard, a sack of toys on his back, a bright red suit trimmed with white fur. Now, his illustrations also gave Santa the North Pole workshop, his elves, and even his wife, Mrs. Claus. But America wasn't the only one with the legend of a Christmastime gift giver. The Swiss and Germans had Christkindl, or Christkind, which means Christ child, by the way, who was like an angel-like figure who delivered toys to well-behaved children. And it's also said that St. Nicholas accompanied Christkind on his Christmas deliveries. Scandinavians, another example, have an elf named Jotunton who delivered gifts by goat-drawn sleigh. The English have Father Christmas, who fills stockings with holiday treats. The French have Père Noël, who puts his treats in children's shoes. And the Russians have a very interesting story of Babushka, who was a woman who apparently intentionally gave the wise men bad directions so that they could not find Jesus on the night of his birth. But in her remorse, she has been leaving presents at the bedsides of children ever since, hoping that one of them is the baby Jesus. The Italians have a similar story with La Befana, who's a good witch who rides her broomstick down and up chimneys to deliver toys to children in stockings. Now, these are some very imaginative stories and compelling figures, but are they dangerous? There are a lot of Christians who believe these imaginary figures and legends are a big part of why Jesus is losing ground as the focus of Christmas, especially with children. Now, I admit, I kind of see their point. I mean, when's the last time you saw a child get as amped about a nativity scene as you see them get amped about Santa Claus? So what? Eradicate Santa? Blot him out of the children's Christmas completely? What does the Bible say, if anything, about any of this? Well, as you imagine, the Bible doesn't say anything about Santa, but what the Bible does say a lot about is truth. Check out what the Word tells us in 1 John chapter 5, verse 20, which I'll read to you now. And we know that the Son of God has come and has given us understanding, so that we may know him who is true, and we are in him who is true, in his Son, Jesus Christ. He is the true God and eternal life. Now, for Christians, truth is our way of life. We do a pretty good job at applying this to Christmas and teaching our children to do the same. Truth, the Son of God came to the world. Truth, his name was Jesus. Truth, Christmas is a time when we celebrate his birth. Truth, every day is a good time to celebrate him as Lord. Why not apply this same truth approach to Santa and teach our children to do the same? Truth, the legend of Santa Claus is a fun make-believe story. Truth, the legend was based on a real person named Nicholas. Truth, Nicholas believed in God and spent his life trying to do good things for others because God did something wonderful for him. Truth, it's good to follow Nicholas's example by serving others, which is what the legend of Santa Claus is really kind of about. Truth, we don't need a special holiday to do good things for other people because Jesus does good things for us all the time. You see, there's no truth in telling our children that there's really a big man in a red suit who traverses the globe in one night, going up and down chimneys, delivering presents to children who are on his nice list. But there's also no truth in refusing to inform our children that this fantasy of Santa Claus is based on a real man that loved God, loved others, and made time to show it. Why not leverage the fun-filled fantasy to get the children in our lives primed to receive the even better, awe-inspiring truth? Think about it. C.S. Lewis used a brave lion named Absalom of Narnia to prepare children's minds to perceive the all-powerful Son of God, Jesus of Nazareth. Fantasy can be useful if it's used to prepare the way to truth, but it's detrimental if it's used to replace it. I'll end with this week's words for thinking. Truth is a path and a person. It's the path we walk in life and the person we spend our life walking toward. It is both the journey and the destination. Now, take some time throughout the rest of your day and reflect on the Think a Little Deeper questions below this video. And don't be shy, be heard. Share your reflections by posting a comment. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this series, Christmas Unwrapped. I know I have. From all of us at Pen Pad Purpose, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Until next time, remember, do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. Bye for now, everyone.